As you think about kind of this conversation that we're having about like all the different players and perspectives around measurable goals and benchmarks, what are some things that you think either the team or particularly the IEP team leader can use to facilitate measurable goals in a way that fits well with collaboration and compliance?
Yeah. You know, one of the things I think is really important that we don't do enough of, again, I think we might have briefly mentioned this already, is this idea of being really conversant with the previous year or the previous 2 years, you know, before coming to the table, and trying to set a whole new set of goals. You know, what's been the experience of the student and the team in the last couple of years as far as, you know, the goals they've been working on, the success, the struggles, the things, you know, and I think knowing that, you know, and being really conversant, you know, with the data and with the progress the student has made is an incredibly important sort of baseline in developing new goals. You know, you have to know where have we been, you know, what's our success been, and kind of what then is have we learned about, you know, the student's learning style, you know, what works well with instruction, and, you know, kind of where we're going with the next set of interventions that we're going to propose.
So it's interesting because what it's making me think, as I listen to you, what it makes me think is, you know, looking at things that we don't do sometimes that might give us a more effective team process are like those work samples, you know, or those observations in a classroom.
Yeah.
Or those, you know, the things, getting a look at what's happening in a way that we can all see together and in some ways agree upon,
right.
You know?
Right.
Because it's hard to write, like if you don't know what's happened in the past, or if you disagree about what's happening or happened in the past, it's going to be hard to move forward.
Right. No, I agree. I totally agree. You know, another strategy that I think, and it's a little thing, but it's for a lot of people and a lot of schools, it's a real practice change. I think it's really crucial to come to an IEP meeting with a draft of your proposed goals.
Yeah.
Like I really think that, you know, oftentimes what happens is that we agree on the goal areas at a meeting, and then the goals themselves are not developed at that meeting. And I think in talking about measurability, you know, a lot of times I think measurable goal writing really benefits from sharing those goals up front, and so that we all look at them and say, wow, is this really measurable? You know, because, you know, even as a BCBA, you know, I've designed goals, you know, you're doing 14 things at once, you know, and it turns out, oh wow, you know, I left out the independence level, or I left out, you know, the frequency of, you know, and so it's easy to leave things out, and having the goals does a couple things. One, it helps us to check each other and support each other in developing measurable goals. And it also promotes, I think, just agreement and coherence on the team, you know, and a sense of, all right, this is what we're doing. Otherwise, you might never really see, unless you're really diligent and check the IEP frequently, like, do you really know what the OT is working on?
Right.
Do you really know what the reading teacher's working on? Do you really know what the, you know, whatever the related service providers might be? You know, if those goals aren't shared specifically, you know, you know, you may not be fully, you know, aware of what's going on for a student. So I think it's important to have that out on the table if possible.
So when you say share the goals in advance, can you, what do you think on a practical, like nuts and bolts level, a team leader might do? Like, who would they share them with? How would they get them? What would it look like?
Yeah, so I don't think it's as important to kind of share them in advance, like in sort of setting them out before the meeting, but at least coming to the table, you know, to the actual table at the meeting with the goals, you know what I mean? So I think probably, and again, you've been a team leader, so you know better than I, but, you know, I think probably trying to squeeze in, collecting everyone's goals before a meeting, getting them out before a meeting is probably not really practical, right? But at least if the team can look at the goals at the meeting and say, okay, you know, all right, so then we have a chance to see, okay, yes, these are measurable, yes, these are important, they're relevant, they're timely, you know, you can, all those indicators that we talked about already, we can check those, and I think...
Well, that's interesting, because I love this idea of, wow, because a lot of times we read goals, we read through them in a meeting, and then it's like, well, so what? So we read them, you know? But if there were this kind of SMART goal
Sure,
checklist,
sure.
right? Where when we talk about the goals, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about asking, is it specific? Is it measurable?
That's right. That's
I
right.
like it.
And that can help, again, it can help us to support each other in writing goals that meet all those criteria.
Yeah.
So I think that's really
Yeah,
good.
oh, that's smart.
You know, the other mistake to avoid, I think, and again, this might just be my own personal preference, I think writing goals at a meeting is a really bad
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
That happens at way too many team meetings where you actually sit down and try to actually write the goal at the meeting, and it's just an enormous waste of time. And you know, people get caught up on kind of wordsmithing, and it just, you know, it ends up being really derailing the process in my mind. So I think that's another mistake to avoid for teams, and trying to actually craft the goals at the meeting. So
But if there were drafts, like you're
that's
suggesting,
exactly right, yeah.
then every team member could talk about
Sure,
or
give some
suggest
input.
changes.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And then
actually
the te-
developing the goal from scratch at the meeting is probably a bad idea as far as just the process
Well,
itself.
it would be time intensive, and it might not result from looking at the information
Right.
that you need to consider.
Right.
Like you said, the kind of the past and the baseline and the current levels, or what students have done in the years before.
Right.
Cool.